Amazing moments on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. We can all do good with our talents. Well, this morning we're also talking about marriage. When's the right time to pop the question? So far, you've been brave enough to give us a call on 0839133728 to discuss your questions and comments. And Dr. Eve is with us this morning as well. Some of the questions that we're going to ask Doctor is, when is it too soon? Can marriage enhance a relationship? We're also taking some of your calls. But before we get there, we're heading to the streets. What needs to be considered before popping the question?
What needs to be considered before the question is popped or before popping the question is whether you see yourself building a future with this person. Can you rely on this person? Can you depend on this person?
I believe you need to get to know the person's family, get to know the individual intimately in terms of how they react to different situations, and within time you should be ready to make the call.
Before we go into money, politics, etc., are you happy? Do I like you? I think we should just bring it back to basics. Can you handle this person, and do you genuinely love that person? The rest will come.
If you love that person, just get married to them. If you want to be with them, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's my opinion.
Well, that's your opinion, and we'd like to hear more from you on 0839133728. Dr. Eve is with us in our studio. Doctor, just one question before we quickly go to our phone lines. When is it too soon?
When it feels like it's really uncomfortable and it feels like there's too much pressure from the family and you feel inherently in your gut, actually, I've too many things that I'm just uncomfortable with and that I'm not raising. That's when trust your gut.
On the question or topic of being uncomfortable, I also want to ask about these long engagements, you know, when people are engaged for 6 or 7 years, maybe 8 or 9 or 10 years. We're going to talk about that. We're going to the phone lines right now. Anonymous, you're live on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. Morning, this is Ilana.
Hi, Ilana. Good morning.
Morning. What's your question or comment?
Listen, I just want to say that there are 3 things that you must keep in mind. And the one thing is you must be emotionally stable.
Right.
You must be financially stable. And you must be spiritually stable to jump into marriage. I think some of the youngsters, they are too much involved. You know, love is too much. They must be practical when jumping into marriage. I'm married now for 34 years.
Right.
And that is what kept me going.
Okay. She says, take off those glasses. Don't be so love drunk. See what it is.
Yeah.
Doctor, what do you say?
I love the strategy of it. I love it. You know, so there was research that was done and they said there are 4 pillars to this thing called love. And I want our viewers to really check them for themselves and see, do you have in this person friendship? Do you have commitment? Do you have trust and honesty and respect? And do you have passion? Because we cannot forget about the sexual side of your relationship as well. So you want to know before you go ahead, is there a mutual interest in being sexual? You also want to discuss the reproductive rights of each other. Do you want to have children? When do you want to have children? And the other thing you want to discuss in today's world is things like monogamy and pornography. What are your relationships to those things before you get married?
So you're saying no surprises?
No, I don't think there should be any surprises. The other big thing that we do have to talk about, because there's so much diversity in terms of gender and sexual orientation, is like, what is your sexual orientation? I've worked with too many couples, Ilana, who will say, but you knew that I as a woman was sexual, had relationships with other women before I married you as a man.
These things, you know, I've got so many questions around this. I even think about race, you know. I remember dating a guy once and the mother kept going, oh, the children. She was so worried about the children. I was like, listen, I'm out of here. You know?
And then
Corner, you are live on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. This is Expresso. We want to hear from you this morning. What's your question or comment?
My comment, Ilana, is that it's a question of faith, whereby the person you're going to marry or the person you want to marry, are you really faithful, or do you really think that you're going to make it? Because we can't really predict what's going to happen in the next 10 years. But it's only that you have faith in that person and yourself that you're going to push through.
Wow.
I love that. I love that so much.
Nice. It talks about trust and faith. That is...
Yeah, those are so important. Also, what I liked what he said was that you don't know what you're going to be like in 10 years' time. So you want to start out a marriage with a basic value system that is compatible with each other. That you both agree, we want monogamy, we want sexual fidelity, we want to be committed to each other. We like those as principles. And as a value system, going forward. Of course it can change. Things change. You know, people change. Some people start out with being atheist and then they find religion later on. But is there a value system where there is flexibility and where there is respect and there is an ability to communicate about these things, can the marriage tolerate it?
Oh, wow. Well, we're talking about we're talking about faith, some beautiful calls coming through.
Yeah.
0839133728. This is your show, and we're talking about when is it too soon to tie the knot. We're talking about marriage on the show this morning. I also want to talk about the long engagements that we often do have, that commitment that just keeps going. This is your Feel Good Breakfast Show. We're going to take your calls after the break.
All you can